to be on a recorded webinar, now is your opportunity to escape. So welcome to the next in our StarNet webinar series. My name is Annie Holland. I am the Community Engagement Manager here at the Space Science Institute. Also on the call from SSI is Kellyanne LeConte, who is our Professional Development Manager.
Hey, everybody.
As well as Paul Dusenberry, who is the Director of the National Center for Interactive Learning.
Hi, everyone.
And for the first time in forever, ooh, that's frozen. For the first time in forever, all of our microphones are working properly, so this is it's a magical day on our end. I also see Annette, who is one of the researchers on our StarNet project on here. So Annette, I'm glad you were able to listen in. You might be one of the ones I muted earlier, so you probably can't talk. All right, so unless anyone has any questions to start off, I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. The goal for today's session is to get you guys introduced to our new websites. Both of them have been up in beta form for a couple of months now, but those of you who have gone and tried to use them, you will notice every other day we were changing something on them. We're pretty comfortable with the format that they're both in right now, and we will, obviously, part of what we're doing right now, we will continue to solicit suggestions for things like layout, resources, what should be on them. From you guys. Please do not feel shy to tell us if you don't like something, if it's not pretty, if you think something isn't going to work very well for you. We are very adaptable. This first website we're going to see, so let me go ahead and share my website, or share my desktop here. This is our StarNet Community of Practice site. Kellyanne, can you let me know if you're seeing this screen?
As soon as I unmute, yes, we are.
Perfect. So this is our StarNet Community of Practice site. I know some of you on the call have been around with the StarNet project from the beginning, so 6 or 7 years ago, a very long time. You will have noticed a few changes. Our first site was a teeny tiny little small site on Central Desktop, which is now iMeet Central, that was just for people receiving our exhibits. So there wasn't a whole lot of interaction going on there. We decided to open it up to the entire library community, to anyone who was wanting to integrate STEM programming into their practice. And when we did that, we moved the website to SharePoint. Those of you who are familiar with SharePoint, it's really good for internal project documentation, lots of files and folders, and it's really, really ugly. Turns out really, really ugly websites aren't the best to get people to keep coming back. So our wonderful web person, Greg here, well, I guess one more step in between. So I tried to make a WordPress site, and I am an astronomer, not a computer programmer. So that wasn't very pretty as well. But Greg Mosshammer, who I believe is on the call right now, who is our new web content manager, made this beautiful site for us. So with all of the lessons learned from the previous iterations of the site, as well as feedback that we got from the community, from some of you, I recognize your names on the call, this is what we ended up with. So what I am going to do, obviously I don't need to walk you through every last little bit of this page. I just want to kind of familiarize you with the type of resources and things that are available on here, just in case you haven't had a chance to look through it. But now is a good time to note, if anybody has any questions or comments as we're going through, please unmute yourself and just speak up, or type there in the chat box. Kellyanne, if I could get you to try to monitor that, because I'm having a hard time seeing it while I'm sharing my screen, that would be fantastic.
I'll be looking for your chance.
Great, thank you. So first here, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. This home page, if you remember nothing else from the call today, just remember all the important stuff. Hey, look, there I am. All the important stuff is going to show up here on this home page. So if you don't remember where something was buried up in the tabs, go to the home page. You'll pretty likely find it if it's something that is, especially if it's something that is coming up here soon. So we have a countdown here to International Observe the Moon Night. That's only 2 weeks from now. We'll talk about that a little more later. Upcoming conferences that we're attending sessions at. Paul and I will be at the Association of Science and Technology Centers Conference next week. Kellyanne and I will be at Cal for those Colorado people. I saw a few of you. You will see us end of October, and then just a day later, Paul will be at Mountain Plains Museum Alliance. which is, I believe, up in North Dakota, and then Kellyanne and I, again, will be at Arcel. So hopefully we'll see some of you. Make sure to come and check our booths out at Cal and Arcel. Countdown to the solar eclipse. Kellyanne will tell you guys a little bit more about that later. Just quick overviews of some of our projects. Great statistics down here. So if you guys are programming librarians and you ever feel the need to be justifying your STEM programming or your participation in our programs to anyone, these are some really good numbers down here. The number of people that the StarNet project has impacted across a couple different factors there. Links to some of the forums, I'll get to those in a minute. Great quotes from people. Again, pretty much anything you're going to be looking for. If you scroll down far enough here on the home page, you'll find it, at least the most recent versions of them. So let's head back up to the top. Try not to get you guys seasick here. All right, so in the About area, this is kind of the place where you can learn more about the StarNet project in general. If you want to figure out who on the staff you should be contacting, who our funders and partners are, if we can't quite provide you with what you want and you want to find somebody else to talk to. It's also a place where we're going to put all of the press releases and media coverage from all of our various projects. So let me see. I'm being brave. I didn't actually click on this before the call. Yeah, so we've got some really great coverage from Discover NASA exhibit at the East Meadow Library. They had a video clip of a promo in there, as well as a article in a magazine. So if you guys doing any of our programs get any press, we would love to highlight you here, and then we'd highlight you in our newsletter as well. But yeah, so that's what this area the About area is generally about. StarNet project things, so not the most useful on a day-to-day basis, but a good place to look if you're wanting to learn more about our programs. This tab is very important. This is the Events tab. Previously, in other iterations of this site, we kind of had this buried in with everything else. You know, we'd put them in the newsletters, we'd put them in the forums or maybe blog posts, but with our new NASA grant, we realized that there really is a big focus on these events, and the events are a really good way for libraries who aren't necessarily geographically close to each other to still participate in similar programming and share those opportunities. So think about it like summer reading, right? During summer reading, you can get a lot of support because so many other libraries are participating in that program, and our intent in highlighting some of these other events is to provide that same, maybe not that same level of support, but at least that level of camaraderie, because you won't be doing it on your own. So let's real quick look at this one. So International Observe the Moon Night, that is the one that we mentioned earlier, is in 2 weeks, 2 days, 10 hours, 48 minutes, and 13 seconds. I really like these timers. Greg added, if you couldn't tell. So that'll be on October 8th. You'll see there's a little register button over here. I'll get to that in a second. But International Observe the Moon Night, it's just a night when people from all across the world, not just the United States, go outside, break out a telescope, binoculars, or even just the naked eye, and observe the moon, and do cool activities around the moon, talk to scientists about the moon. It's just a really fun event. You'll notice down here, we actually did a webinar about participating in this event, I believe last month. So if you guys want to view that webinar to get your library involved, that's the place to find that. This next button here, this is really cool. So we've added a bunch of wikis as well as forums to the website so that you guys can tell us what we're missing. So there's a place here, so if I go ahead and click that button for the wiki, oops, and I've logged myself out on accident. So in this wiki, had I remained signed in, I could have clicked edit, and you can actually add information to this book list, and you can see who added what once you are logged in. So this is just stuff that people think that libraries would be interested in using. So Science Adventures with Max the Dog series. So Max Goes to Mars, Max on the Moon, or whatever that one's called. Lots of different cool books in here about not only the science involved in observing the moon, but how you physically observe it. Do you have a telescope or binoculars? Here's the best way to use them. So lots of good resources there. Let's head back, and I want to show you, this is the first of 2 of these you'll see. you can actually go, and this is not our site, this is through the Lunar and Planetary Institute. You can actually go, if you're going to have an International Observe the Moon Night event, you can go to this site and register your library so that you'll show up on this cool interactive map, and people will be able to tell that you're doing it. You'll notice library, very clearly highlighted as one of the people they think should be doing this kind of thing. So if you guys decide to do that, let me know. We'd love to highlight you guys in a blog post or even a future webinar about the cool events libraries are hosting. So that's, look at my time here, no need to belabor that. I want to show you guys one more event though we have in here. This one is a StarNet event. Kellyanne, do you want to tell our libraries a little bit how they can participate in next year's solar eclipse?
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, has everyone on here heard about this coming through the StarNet newsletter, kind of gotten a heads up about this? I see some people typing in yes. So we're hoping that this isn't going to surprise you. It is going to be an international event, and that people from all over the world will be flocking to the United States for the chance to see a total solar eclipse of the sun, which will be occurring on August 21st, 2017. That's a Monday. So we're just trying to push out information and put together a collection of resources for you so that as you're getting ready for this event and thinking about it, wherever you're located, that you might be able to get some resources and engage your communities in the science and exploration and cultural connections involved in solar eclipses. So on this page, if you go to this area and just register, what we're looking for here is that you're going to have a solar eclipse event and that you would like to receive resources from us. And basically just need you to give us some basic information about your library and your intention to do this. And then we'd be asking you to provide some example to confirm for us that you are in fact having an event. And we'll give you access to plenty of resources. Anne's pointing out the
sorry, I'm having a fun time.
We hope this isn't an overwhelming form for you. We're just trying to make sure that we are getting the resources into the hands of those who most need it and will use it. So I'm sorry, Anne, can you scroll back just a little bit more down there? And that right there, I just wanted to let you know that we're looking for you to submit some information, and then in return we will give you resources. And Anne, can you scroll down just a little bit more, please? Anne's driving. I'm the backseat driver. So we're going to be putting together multimedia. So we'll have images, video that we've used, so high quality video from our exhibits and from the NASA Science Visualization Studio. We'll have animations, artwork that you can use in promoting your programming and reaching out to partners. We'll have media templates packages, so information that you can use to alert the community about this major event, especially trying to push out information on how to view solar eclipses safely. It is something that, of course, you don't want to be looking at the sun without eye protection, and we'll have different resources available on this site for you to help people make sure they're protecting their eyes. And if you're one of those lucky cities that's going to be in the path of totality, once the moon is completely over the sun and all of the sun is covered, you will be able to look at that with the naked eye. So those lucky people will have about 2 minutes of looking upward without any eye damage. But we want to make sure that information on how to do that is pushed out to people so that they are able to enjoy the event and just have good memories about it. We also will be having a forum where you can have discussions about your plans. We'll keep in touch with you with a newsletter, and hopefully, best of all, we'll be sending first come, first serve 50 free solar viewing glasses to those who can demonstrate that they will have an event. And these are basically like welding glasses that made into a really thin plastic film and put into a pair of cardboard sunglasses kind of things. And they are approved for use for looking at the sun. So very cool set of resources. Any questions on that event or the registration process, rather? All right, well, I'll keep monitoring chat and let me know if you have anything else. But Anne, you want to keep going?
Great, yeah, thank you, Kelly, and that's great. And yeah, those glasses are absolutely amazing, and we have special personalized ones. Very fancy. All right, so the next item as we go through the website here is this project area. I'm not going to go too deeply into this. Go ahead and take a look at some of the things on here. I did want to really quick highlight and point out this page from last year's Public Libraries and STEM conference. There's some good information on there about about the sessions that we had at last year's conference. You'll notice we're hoping to have one fall of next year, so stay tuned for that. Some great quotes from people who participated. Again, the reason I point this out, even though we don't have a lot of our info on here yet, we're still kind of putting that all together. If you are trying to make the case about why you guys should get to go to a conference to present about the cool STEM stuff you're doing, or coming to one of our events, those quotes on here about how this was, well, this one. I can honestly say the conference has fundamentally changed how I think about my library and public libraries in general. Things like that are quite convincing as you're trying to see if these activities and resources are worthwhile. So speaking of resources, let's pop on over there. So this is the part of the site I would anticipate most of you would be using the most often. So we've got announcements for conferences, our webinars, as well as our partners' webinars, archived versions of our newsletters. We have a forum, we have a blog. These parts down here, those are all wikis. We have implementation guides for some of our activities. So this is kind of the meat of the site, right? This is where all the stuff that is not an activity, we'll get to that later, this is where all of the stuff goes, kind of the professional development pieces. It's also where you guys can interact with each other instead of just having to hear me sit here and talk to you. So I'll just go into a couple of these real quick just to show you what they look like. So here, the webinar area, so it'll have a little, so this is today's webinar, obviously. It'll have a little brief description of the webinar, the place to register for it, and then once that webinar has happened, it comes down here to the top of the archived webinars bin, where you can get a PDF version of the slides, as well as a WebEx recording. If you want access to the PowerPoint to use on your own, that's absolutely fine. You can have that. It's just easier to put it up as a PDF, so please just email me or Greg and we can get you PowerPoints if you need to use them for a presentation. That's as long as it's something that we did, that's absolutely fine. If it's one of our partners, we would just get their permission first, obviously. So definitely, if this is the first webinar you've attended, scroll through scroll through these archived ones and see if there's anything cool. We had an Eclipse webinar back in August. I think we'll be having one again next month, and you'll be hearing more about that for sure in about a week or so in the newsletter, but definitely check all these out. A quick plug for this one, if you are just space nerds and you want to learn more about outer space, definitely watch this webinar. Not as much in there for what you would do in a specific program, but it's just a very good primer for the space topics and the kinds of questions that patrons, especially the short ones, tend to ask. So really quickly, I'm just going to go into the blog really quick. I did not notice if any of them were on the webinar today, but these blogs are great because it's not just me or Kellyanne or Paul. We actually have librarians who are bloggers for our site who put up a couple of blog posts, for us each month. Most of these are based on programming that they're doing at their libraries, so this is fantastic. If you think to yourself, oh, Annie's an astronomer and she says I can do a comet making activity, but of course she'd say that. Well, don't listen to me. Go and read these blog posts and listen to the librarians who are doing these activities in their facilities and are having great success with it. These are absolutely fantastic, and we are very happy to have our bloggers doing all this with us. So if any of you are listening right now, thank you. And if any of you listening want to submit a blog post, please let me know. We're not super formal here. You can either send me the post and I'll post it for you, or I can give you the permissions on the site to do that. And when I say I mean Greg. Greg is in charge of the web things now, which is exciting for me. All right, so this tab, the books, videos, websites, and more, is where a lot of our wikis and other things live, where you guys can actually be giving us some good information to share with the rest of the group and talking with one another. This book area is especially important just because you've all asked for it. People have asked us, okay, put a place where we can see what other books people are using for programs, where we can add our suggestions. So that's what this area is for. Again, so we've got a bunch of different categories in here. And if for some reason the site wouldn't have logged me out and not let me do it while I'm sharing my logged back in while I'm sharing my screen, I could show you exactly how to edit that. But that's pretty self-explanatory. And then the last tab here, before we get over to our second website, this is the STEM in Libraries tab. This is the one, you know, like I said, we are constantly updating the site based on you guys' feedback. We actually just decided to add this particular page, I believe, last Thursday, and Greg is fantastic again and gets all this ready for us. So this page, kind of similar to the stuff I pointed out in the About area, these are resources for library leadership. And I wanted to take this opportunity to say, when we say library leadership, we don't even necessarily just mean the directors or the people who are in charge of programming. What we mean are the people who are kind of assuming these both formal and informal leadership roles in their library. So the emerging leaders, if you will, if you are the person stumping for STEM in your library, this is going to be a very good place for you. So we've got an area about why STEM in libraries, collaboration, evaluation. So this is great. So in this area, you'll be able to find all the PDFs of all of the great research and evaluation work that have been done over the years as part of the StarNet project. So John Beck's Accidental STEM Librarian, EDC has done a lot of work for us on the StarNet project. There's a great summative report from the first phase of StarNet. Pretty soon here, if it's not up already, the STEM equity paper that was done by Annette and her team will be up here. So lots of really good stuff, not necessarily even just about making the case, but so that you can understand a little bit better where the community in general is heading with doing STEM in the library setting. So before I move on to the next site, does anyone have any questions or suggestions about this one? And while you're typing or unmuting yourself, I did want to point out we also do have links to all of our social media things up here: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, YouTube. What is that one? Flickr. Didn't recognize that little thing. So we have all of that stuff. Feel free to follow us and we'll follow you back. We do enjoy seeing what you guys are posting on social media for sure.
Annie?
Yep.
Could you, do you think this would be a good time to just pause and show how to make an account? We have a question about, like, such as the wikis. Can anyone have an account and can anyone add to them?
Perfect. Great question. So serendipitously, since I'm signed out, I can show you that very easily. So there's a little Join Our Community button here on top. So if you click here, you'll just be creating an account on our WordPress site. So we do require not a whole lot of information. We want to know what library you're from. We want to know your real name. That's important, so I'm glad someone asked this question. If you put, you know, AstroNerd22 and don't put an organization, we probably won't approve your request because we do get a lot, even with our CAPTCHA down here, we do get a lot of fake, like, you know, those ads, the Ray-Ban ad accounts trying to register. So please do use your real name and your library organization. You can have a username that doesn't have to say who you are at all. If you want to be AstroNerd22 for your username, that's fine. Just give us your real name too. Job title, zip code, and then also important, keep this button checked. This is saying that you want to be signed up for our email newsletter. That's a newsletter that we just send once a month, and that's the way that you will receive updates when we add or change things on the website. So if we add more activities, if we're going to have a webinar, that's the best way to see it without going and searching through the site. And again, we only do those about once a month unless like some amazing thing has come up. So we definitely won't spam you there. So what does it mean to sign up to the site? Really, all that means is that you are, able to post to the wikis, that you're able to comment on those blog posts, you're able to post in the forums, and if you decide you want to get more involved and you want to do a blog post or that kind of thing, it means you're already in the system, so I can just check a box to allow you to do that. So a really simple process. Greg approves all of them by hand as they come in, so give it 24 or 48 hours depending on day of the week. But you'll still be able to, obviously, while you're waiting for us to approve it so that you can post things, obviously you still have the same access to the rest of the site. We are very careful not to have any parts of the site that are members only at this point. If that changes, it'll be for very specific things. So signing up doesn't get you access to any more stuff. It just gets you access to the interaction. And again, I would definitely recommend that you all do that. Kellyanne, were there any more questions that came in?
I'm scanning through here.
Thank you.
See, I don't see any questions about the login process. But definitely, I just wanted to add to what Ann was saying. Please do join us in the conversations there. It's very informal. We're not looking for, polished opinions inside those forum posts. That's exactly what it's for. It's just to have an informal conversation. If you have something that you'd like to present more formally and have, links that you're going to shout out to the world, then let us know about the opportunity to blog, and we'd love to help promote what you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for adding that. All right, so if anyone has any more questions, again, please keep typing them in the chat box. But in the interest of time, which so far we're right on time, it's fantastic, let us head over to the STEM Activity Clearinghouse. So you'll notice it's a big blue button that just opens in another tab for you, so you don't have to really leave our site. You can just go right on back to it and not get lost. So this site, the STEM Activity Clearinghouse, was developed in coordination with Cornerstones of Science, with a grant from the Institute for Museum and Library Services, IMLS, excuse me. So this, again, is a site very much based on need. We have done countless at this point, surveys, focus groups, interviews, phone interviews, in-person conversations at conferences, all you can think of to try to find out what it is exactly that you in libraries need from us as far as help to conduct activities in your library. We started off with, great, we're sending out exhibits, we're going to send activities with those, and now we're just moving on so that everyone who isn't necessarily involved directly in our grants can still get access to all that stuff. So that is the clearinghouse. So if you guys haven't seen this before, it really is just the collection of activities. All the other stuff we've sent back onto the other website so that it's not all jumbled in together. That does not mean that you can't easily find these other resources from each individual activity. It just means that we'll be linking you back to the other site and you won't lose the activity you were looking at. So for quick reference, we do have two tabs up here at the top, books, videos, and more. You might recognize that language. It's just one of the wikis back on the main page. So if you are looking for a topic-specific book or video, that's where you should be heading. If you're looking for an activity-specific book or video, those will actually be listed inside the activities, which again, I'll get to in a second. We do also have this tab for guides, facts, and tips. So these are things like facilitation guides for a collection of activities. Playful building, for those of you familiar, would be an example of a collection of activities. Perhaps also general tips on facilitation and how to speak the lingo about STEM in your library, right? That kind of thing. If any of you have something like that you'd want us to add to that, certainly we could. But these, again, these are just links taking you right back to the correct spot on the previous website. So now within this site, there are a couple different ways you can search if you want to find your perfect activity. So let's say your name's Annie and your perfect activity is about comets. You type in comets and Cook Up a Comet shows up as apparently the only activity we have with a keyword of comet in it, so that was convenient. So since this is where we landed, I will use this opportunity to show you guys what all we've done to make it a little easier to do these activities in your library. So this right here, this is what I call the activity card. So it is just a quick overview of all of the elements of the activity. So what content areas they are, what age groups it's good for, how long it takes to complete, a quick view of cost. If you say, oh no, I have $0, I can't do an activity that costs anything, well, you know not to do this one today, but maybe next week, right? Also really cool, something that we've added here, you know, there are a ton of websites, right, that you guys can go to find activities to do in your library. I know a lot of you rely on Pinterest. Some of you go to the NASA Wavelength site. That's all fine, especially NASA, because I know the NASA stuff vetted. Sites like Pinterest or just Googling around, sometimes you find great things, sometimes you find things that may not be scientifically accurate. They may not have been tested, so it might tell you that it takes 20 minutes to prep the activity and it really takes like half of your day. So we've really tried to get rid of some of that ambiguity. Any of the activities in here we've actually done ourselves or one of our very close library partners has, so we can, as much as we can, guarantee that it's accurate. But what we heard the most when I was doing all of my surveys for this clearinghouse that people really wanted is they wanted, for these activities that they've already found, they just wanted a quick little hint for how to use this activity in your library. So some of these are just quick things like, hey, in case you didn't know, dry ice is really cold and you might burn your hands, wear gloves and eye protection. For others, it might be, hey, you know, we talk about using a projector, but just go to this website and print something else instead. Or, oh, this rocket activity says to use all these pieces, forget about it. Just use straws if you can't find all of those pieces. So it's hints we've gotten from other libraries about how to make these activities a little bit easier to use in the library. But again, if you don't need to use that tip, just do the activity as is. So the reason I say that, so you go ahead and click Open Activity, you'll notice again another page opens that will either take you directly to the PDF of the activity, if it's either ours or one that one of our partners has given to us. But what might happen, and let me go and find another activity to give you an example here. If you open an activity that is not ours, I believe this would be one of them, perfect. What we actually do is we send you directly to the source. This is good for our partners because they're still getting the web traffic, but it also gets you all of this other great information that they may have come up with that I wasn't able to add to my list because of space concerns. But if you want to know some of the benchmarks, or you want to know, you know, if there's any, any links to science standards, this is a good way that you can find it. And it's also a good way if you decided, wow, that was my favorite activity, I wish Annie had more. If we have linked you to these sites, it means we agree that they have quality activities. We might not think they're all suited for the libraries, but you can go and browse through these on your own and see what makes the most sense for you. How we, at least me, how I'm really viewing the clearinghouse is a good way for people to start, to get great ideas of what to do. And if it leads you somewhere else, that's absolutely great. We just wanted to give a kind of vetted place to do that. So I gave you one example of how to search. Use the search bar, pretty easy. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, the other thing that we've done for you is we've broken all of our activities into these collections. So we've got one for this year's summer reading. So these are like healthy living sports kind of activities. We've got one that is strictly dedicated to our StarNet hands-on activities. So these are all the great activities that Kellyanne has done and that have been tested in libraries, and we know 100% for a fact that they are amazing things that work really well. We've got activities for pre-K, so ones for the smaller, kids in the class. solar eclipse, moon activities, just in time for International, Observe the Moon Night. So we'll go ahead and go into one of these. We'll go into playful building. These are activities that were made for our Discover Tech exhibit, but have been edited so that they're fine for anyone to use. You don't have to have had the exhibit. So you'll notice there's the link to open the activities, obviously. A lot of the activities have how-to videos. We will be adding more of those as time goes on. But so this is just a collection of all of those activities. If you want to know more than I've given you on this simple little card about the activity, you just click View Details and you get all of the information that I have been able to add. You also get the option, if you guys do Pinterest, you can go ahead and pin one of our quality tested activities to Pinterest and slowly, change the tide of the kind of scary activities I sometimes find on there. You can also write a review of any of these activities. If you do this yourself in the library, we would greatly appreciate it and love you forever if you could write a review in here. Even if the review is, wow, guys, it didn't really work for us. Our patrons didn't really get it. We could have used more information. That's absolutely fine. We want to hear the good and the bad. These shouldn't just all be glowing reviews. If you think we can provide better information, please tell us. It will not hurt our feelings. You can also email, you can print, and this would be printing this sheet, which is actually good if you're making like a binder of activities to just put this sheet on top of it for quick reference. I would definitely recommend that. And there are a couple other fields down here that, depending on if people have added to them or not, you get more information. You can suggest a book related to this activity. We will review it, and then if we think if we agree with your suggestion, we'll add it on here as a book suggested specifically for this activity. So the collections are really cool. If anyone has any suggestions for different collections, that would be great. We've done this a little bit by content area, also by events, such as International Observe the Moon Night and the Eclipse. If there's some category tag or collection that's better for you, again, please tell us and we will get that added. The other thing you can do, if you're searching for the perfect activity for you, is just click Browse All Activities. So right now we apparently have 68 items available, and you can either just scroll through till something strikes your fancy. That's fine with 68 items. As this list gets bigger, I probably wouldn't recommend that. But what you can do is we've got these fabulous checkboxes over here on the left-hand side, just like your Amazon cart. And if you, say to yourself, okay, Bill Nye is coming the day before, so we definitely want to do something spacey, right? The kids will be super interested in space. So you click the astronomy and space. You notice we're now down to 33 items. It sorts as you click. And you know that you're going to have a lot of tweens in the audience. Always hard to program for, right? So you want to click that tween box. We're down to 29 items. But you only have 10 minutes to do your activity. Well, we won't do that because there's only one in there. You've got a long time to do your activity. It's 1 to 2 hours that you think you'll have the kids' attention for. We're now down to 5 items. Time needed to prep the activity. You have a lot of time to spend on the activity, but absolutely 0 time to get it ready. That's probably accurate for all of you. So you click that button, and then you will see we are left with one singular activity that will follow all of those characteristics. You can also search by the cost associated with buying the materials, how hard it is, and I wanted to point these out because these can sometimes be confusing. The difficulty level is by the content, not by how hard it is to physically do the activity. If for some, I doubt it will happen, but if I find an activity about the quantum vertices in other made-up words, right, that's going to be a hard one. If the activity is about, what animals live in what parts of the world, that'll be an easy one. It doesn't necessarily mean, right, the quantum vertices one, that might actually be a super simple activity. This is just saying that the content level is difficult. So you might consider the rocket scientist level ones for the older kids, the easier ones for the younger kids. We can also sort by mess level. This is important. If you want to make elephant toothpaste and make a terrible mess of the library, that's going to be under high. If you want to use cardboard and tape and straws to make a rocket car, that's going to be under low. You can also see if, and again, since we've searched, all these say 0 now. If you say, you know, I'm really not comfortable doing these things unless I've seen a video, a how-to video of some sort first, you can click that button first and immediately sort everything by how-to video. Now this area is going to be really cool. It is obviously not complete yet. This is going to search separately from all the rest of the terms, so you don't accidentally delete all of the options. So what we're going to do here is have a list of about 50 common materials you guys tend to find in your supply cabinets, again, as people have told me in surveys and interviews. And if you go to your cabinet and you say, oh dear God, I must get rid of all of these popsicle sticks or I won't have room for the new kit that's coming in, you can click on popsicle sticks and out will pop activities that will help you get rid of those pesky popsicle sticks without getting rid of them. Without throwing them away. So that will be really cool. We're not done there yet, but I still did want to point it out because it's another, it's a search category everybody asked me for. We will also be able to search by tags. Again, we're not quite there yet. This is an ongoing project, but we didn't want to not give you guys access to the site. So all of the activities that we do, we're going to attach about 10 tags to them. And those are tags that perhaps go a little more in depth than those search terms we were just talking about. And that way you can look at this list of tags and say, oh great, I do want something that's about aerodynamics. So that's obviously a test tag. But so we'll have a whole list of things here. One of the tags that I know that we have is there's one for edible activities, right? So if you have a group of kids that you know will really be motivated by, you know, making science experiments out of candy, click that tag and you'll find the candy rovers and things like that. So again, that will be super useful. We are currently in the process of tagging all of these activities now, you know, future-proofing ourselves. It is taking a little bit longer than we might have suspected, but it'll get there. And then, trying to remember, oh, this is really cool too, which was not here when I first signed in. So over here, if you were looking at activities, say last week, as long as you're on the same computer and you come back, even if you're not signed into the page, it'll remember by your IP address what you were looking for before. So if you say, oh no, I found the perfect crater creation activity and I forgot to save the link, it'll show up here in the viewed items. I think it'll go down to the last 10 viewed items. So don't rely on that, but if you miss something, that's a cool little feature that Evaldis, who built this site, was able to add in for us. So I think I probably covered the basics here. Again, this is another one, you know, just take a look through the collections especially. That's a really good way to kind of chunk out how this site is operating. We've got 68 activities, like I said, on here now. The goal is to have 100 by the end of the year, and then we'll keep adding them as we're going through our various projects. So if you guys have suggestions for activities, if you have suggestions for what should be on some of those fact sheets, those are things we take very seriously, and it makes our jobs frankly easier if you guys are helping us to figure this out rather than us having to go and pull that information out of people. So does anyone have any questions about the STEM Activity Clearinghouse?
And we have one. Will the reviews allow for rating the activities? For example, could a library sort by all the activities by highest to lowest rated activities?
That's a fantastic idea. So right now we do have the capability to rank the activity, or excuse me, to rate the activities like 1 to 5 stars. I believe, I'm just double checking, yeah, that is not turned on right now because we wanted to wait until we had more activities in here so that we didn't artificially inflate the early activities. But yes, absolutely. There will be a rating system, and then it will be one of the search criteria over on the left. And this is important, so I'm glad you asked. Just like the ingredient list, right, where you can search for popsicle sticks, this will be one that you can do separate from all the other ones without it deleting your previous choices and missing some of the activities. So that will be a very good way to sort. Any other questions about the clearinghouse?
I'd just like to say this is like sitting in front of a grand buffet, and it's hard to know where to start first. It's really great. I just want to ask one question. I noticed that there's only 19 attendees, and it seems as though on a national basis there ought to be people just flocking to this. Have you thought about how you're going to reach more people?
Yeah, absolutely. More than 19. So thankfully, this tends to happen on our webinars. We get the full, because we're limited to 100 people on this system, we get the full 100 registering, and then people just don't show up. Thankfully, you know, looking back at the downloads of our past webinars, we do get in the couple of hundreds of people looking at them, but yeah, it's definitely, it's hard. We are going to a lot of conferences, as we mentioned at the beginning, over the next few weeks to share some of these resources. We're also starting through our NASA at My Library project, which is a recently funded NASA grant. We are getting in contact with state libraries and the state librarians to try to do a little bit better job of disseminating this info. So that is hopefully a good way to do it. Did you have any suggestions of how we could broaden our reach?
No, I don't. I said I'm just surprised.
Yeah.
I think having the archive, though,
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's very good.
Yes. Yeah, no, that definitely helps, and I think we've been so good about the archive, I think it does actually lower the number of people participating in real time because you have jobs.
Okay, thank you for that answer.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Very much so.
Any other questions or comments?
And we have a question in the chat just about adding your own activities as in a list to the others on here.
Yeah, so the best way to do that for right now, we might decide if enough people do it to make it a standalone category, is when you write your review, you can include in your review other activities that you thought would have gone well with this particular one. And then once we've got a bit more of that data, we will either make that a whole separate category in the activity card, just like the Suggest a Book feature, or if we go and look at those activities and we agree and say, oh dear, why wasn't that on here? You will have helped us create a new collection. So please add any comments like that into the reviews if you think it's important people have it right away, or you can send that information to me and we will look at creating new collections. Good question. All right, I am going to stop sharing my screen and head back over, muted myself, head back over to the WebEx just so that I can see everything. Oh wow, so much happening in the chat. Thank you guys, I missed all of that. Paul, if you're still on, did you want to add anything before we go ahead and sign off? I'm just looking through the comments right now.
No, Anne, this sounds really, really wonderful. I mean, I just want to encourage everyone to take advantage of all the resources, but also to take advantage of all the ways to communicate. And it's not just through this particular website portal, but it's also, you know, through email and other means as well. So, and you know, including, you know, getting together at conferences and, you know, really making the community, the library STEM community, a very enriching process for everyone. And I also want to just encourage everyone too to realize that we are working with amazing STEM organizations that are really, really interested in working with public libraries on all sorts of different ways, and the more that we can bring some of those opportunities to all of you, we're going to be really being as proactive as we possibly can.
Excellent, thank you. So just glancing through the chat really quick, this is like the best chat I've seen. Good job, guys. But I just need to like look away from it and amazing things happen. I did see some of you mentioned you'd already registered for International Observe the Moon Night. That's great. Colorado folks said that we should make sure to work with Aspen Cat as far as getting books out there that are current and relevant to these activities, and that is actually something on our radar. We're going to the Cal conference in a few weeks, like I said, and I already have a meeting with those guys, so thank you for the reminder. We also had someone ask, this is when we were talking about the Eclipse night, when we think it will be too late to get the glasses. I think Kellyanne mentioned this a little bit. They are first come, first serve. We're going to do our best to be able to get them to everyone that registers, but certainly if you are, waiting until the deadline we've established, which I think is perhaps March, there's less of a chance just because we've gotten 900 registrants so far, and I don't think we quite expected it to take off this quickly. So definitely, for right now, when you're registering, it's the intent to create a program. So you don't need to have the proof of the program yet. You just need to give us a general idea of what you think you might be doing, and I recommend you just go ahead and do that now, so that as we're developing the information internally that you can use to better prepare, you'll get that instead of waiting to get it after you've already made your plans. All right, so I'm going to make sure, just because this was a very useful chat as well, we will make sure to post the chat transcript as well with the recording. No PowerPoint, obviously, since we were just sharing my screen. That will show up in the recording. I will warn you, though, when we do screen sharing, it is a larger file, so I would recommend you stream it instead of download it. The streaming does not work well when we've done video ones. So unless anyone has any further questions, this has been great. Please do share the link to this with other people. The websites, as I mentioned, have been up for a few months, but it's a little daunting to just go in there and see all of that information. So we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of highlight some of our favorite parts. So yeah, Kelly and Paul, thank you for your help. Thank you to everyone for attending, and do keep your eyes on your email as we'll be sending out info for the next webinar shortly. And again, that one should be around participating in the Eclipse, so it should be very exciting. And thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.